Good day everyone, I am Marvel Makatampad, the leader of the group, and today we are going to discuss about a children fantasy novel, The Esperanza Rising by Pam Munoz Ryan. But first, let me introduce to you my groupmates.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jeremiah.
Good day everyone, I am Princess Kit Villar.
Good day everyone, I'm Musica Bastistana.
Hello everyone, I am Angeline Ichano.
And we are the group Fantastic Five. So now, please help me welcome our first reporter, Mr. Reston Jeremiah.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jeremiah, and today we will be exploring the world of Esperanza Rising. The famous coming-of-age story Esperanza Rising examines Esperanza's transformation from a slightly spoiled young privileged girl to a mature introspective adult. However, since Esperanza's family is a major part of the narrative, we can also classify it as a family drama. Both family drama are present. Now, Esperanza Rising is a 14-chapter novel that has a strong historical foundation. Although Esperanza Rising is undoubtedly a work of fiction, the characters live in a world that has been influenced by actual historical occurrences, such as the Mexican Revolution, the migration of American and Mexican laborers to California in search of employment, the Great Depression, and the period of voluntary deportation of Mexicans from the United States in the 1930s. So we've got a story that places fictional characters and events in a real historical setting that, folks, is historical fiction. You may also ask yourself, what's up with the title? Esperanza Rising? Well, spoiler alert, Esperanza is the main character. But wait, there's more. The word Esperanza also translates to hope in Spanish. Hope? Well, there is quite a lot of that going around in this novel, and that's for sure. The double meaning of this novel's title lets us know that no matter how bad things might seem, both Esperanza, the person, and Esperanza, the emotion, are moving up. Now, what does Esperanza Rising mean? Here are some ideas. She ages. Yes, that's simple. It's natural. She develops maturity as she absorbs crucial lessons about justice, fairness, and family. And soon, she will rise above those who kept them down. And that's it for my time here, and I will pass the floor to the next reporter.
Good day everyone, I am Princess Kit Villar, and for today, I am going to discuss about the author and the characters of Esperanza Rising. So Esperanza Rising is a young adult historical fiction novel written by Mexican-American author Pam Munoz Ryan and released by Scholastic Publishing on 27 March 2000. Pam Munoz Ryan was born in Bakersfield, California. She is half Mexican with Basque, Italian, and Oklahoman cultural influences. Pam Munoz Ryan is an American writer for children and young adults, particularly in the multicultural genre. Munoz Ryan has written over 40 books for young people, including picture books, early readers, and middle grade and young adult novels. Her novels include Esperanza Rising, Riding Freedom, Becoming Naomi Leon, Paint the Wind, The Dreamer, and Echo. Her novel Esperanza Rising was commissioned as a play by the Minneapolis Children's Theater and has been performed in venues around the U.S. including the Goodman Theater in Chicago and the Cutler Majestic Theater in Boston. The purpose of the author, Pam Munoz Ryan, in this novel is to teach a young audience how discrimination can hurt and make things more problematic for certain groups of people. It also teaches more universal themes like the importance of family, what it means to be a good friend, and values like determination and hope. So the character of this novel, first, Esperanza Ortega. Esperanza Ortega is a novel protagonist whose name is a Spanish word for hope. At the start of the book, at 13 years old, she is being raised in the lap of luxury in her father's sister sprawling Aguacalientes ranch, El Rancho de las Rosas. Next is Ramona Ortega. Esperanza's mother, Ramona, is a spirited woman who would do anything for the good of her family. She is a woman of strong values who refuses to capitulate to blackmail or coercion in the wake of her husband's death, and instead makes the decision that will allow her and her daughter to live freely, even if it means living in poverty. Next is Esperanza's father. Sixto appears only briefly in the novel, very early on. He is killed by bandits while riding on the outskirts of his ranch, El Rancho de las Rosas. Next is Ramona's mother, known to Esperanza only as Abuelita. She is a kind, patient, and gracious woman who teaches Esperanza how to crochet and passes along important proverbs and wisdom, reminding her early on in the novel that one should never be afraid to start over. Next is Tio Luis, a Sisto Ortega eldest stepbrother and the president of the local bank. A cruel man who, together with his younger brother Marco, takes advantage of Sisto's death as a path toward acquiring the dead man's land, wealth, and even his wife Ramona. Next is Tio Marco, Sisto Ortega's older stepbrother and the mayor of the town. Not quite as smart as Luis, his older brother. He follows the elder man around like a donkey and does anything and everything Luis tells him to. Next is Alfonso, the boss of all the field workers on El Rancho de las Rosas and sister's close friend and companion. Alfonso has a sad, moody appearance but is enthusiastic and kind on the inside. Next is Alfonso's wife, Miguel's mother and the Ortega family's housekeeper, Hortensia. She is a Zapotic Indian from Oaxaca who takes good care of Esperanza and her entire family and truly loves the Ortegas. Next is Miguel, the 16 years old son of Alfonso and Hortensia. Miguel and Esperanza have been friends and playmates since they were small. Next is Marta, a teenage girl who lives and works on a neighboring farm owned by a different company picking cotton. Next is Isabel, Juan and Josefina's 8 years old daughter. She is transfixed by Esperanza from the first moment she sees her, and constantly begs the older girl tell stories of her luxurious, beautiful life in Mexico. And the minor characters are Juan, Josefina, Lopi and Pipi, Irene, Melina, Sylvia, Marisol Rodriguez, and Senor Rodriguez.
Good day everyone, I'm Musico Bastistana and now I was assigned to tackle about the settings of the story titled Esperanza Rising, the children's fantasy. So where it takes place? Esperanza Risings mainly take place in two places, in the Mexico and the United States. So in Mexico, the settings is a large, beautiful vineyard in Aguacaliastis owned by Esperanza's dad. Esperanza's family live in a large house with servants and many fine possessions. The family is one of the relatively few in Mexico who have lots of wealth compared to the most of people who have no way of improving their lives. Second, in the United States. So the story takes place on and around a farm in Arvin, California. Esperanza, her mother, and their friends live in a tiny shacks that she thinks look more like horse stalls than houses. So the house is one of the many just like the hundred of houses of poor immigrant workers. Next is the literary device used. So Esperanza Rising relays on many instances of literary device to capture Esperanza's complex emotion in the vivid settings of the story. First, they use metaphor. Wait a little while and the fruit will fall into your hand. So this means that Esperanza must be patient. In time, good things will come. Eventually, she finds happiness, the fruit, when she, Mama, and Abuelita reunite. Next is simile. When Papa was alive, everything was in order, like the doll lined up in a row. So like her beautiful, expensive doll, Esperanza's life was picture perfect before Papa's death. So everything happened just as Esperanza expected to it. Next is personification. Our land is alive. This whole valley, breath and lives. So this means the character have an emotional tie to the land that brings food and prosperity to the valley. It provides jobs for the laborers and wealth to the owners. And last is idiom. There is no rose without thorn. So this means that there is no life without difficulties. Esperanza encounters many thorns the year she turned 13. So that will be all. And now I'm going to pass the floor to the next reporter.
Hello everyone, I am Angeline Ichano and I am tasked to report the summary of Esperanza Rising. Esperanza Ortega, the daughter of wealthy landowners, lives in Aguascalientes, Mexico in 1930 on her family's ranch with her mother, father, and grandmother. The day before Esperanza's 13th birthday, her father is murdered while working on the ranch. At her birthday party, she receives a doll from Papa. It was her last gift from him. Her uncle Luis reveals that he now owns their land. He offers to continue to care for them and their ranch if Esperanza's mother Ramona will marry him. When she refuses, he burns down the ranch. Esperanza's grandmother Abuelita is injured during the fire and is sent to a convent where she can recover. Esperanza and the rest of her family decide to travel to the United States. When Esperanza's family arrives in the United States, which is currently in the grip of the Great Depression, they settle in a farm camp in Irvine, California. Esperanza begins to adjust to her new life but still fantasizes about Abuelita rescuing her from poverty. Ramona contracts valley fever, and the doctor are unsure if she will survive. Esperanza, desperate for money to support herself and pay her mother's medical bills, takes work on the farm camp despite being underage. She stockpiles money orders in the hopes of one day sending them to Abuelita and allowing her to travel to the United States. Tensions rise in the camp as migrants from Oklahoma flee the Dust Bowl and look for work in California. Some workers go on strike to try to improve working conditions. Following a massive demonstration by the strikers, the farm owners call immigration officials to round up and deport the demonstrators. However, many of the people deported were natural-born American citizens who had never been to Mexico. Esperanza has a breakdown and then an argument with her friend Miguel because of this event. The next day, they find that Miguel has left to seek work in the Northern California. When Ramona recovers from her illness, Esperanza proudly goes to show her mother the money order she saved, only to discover that they are missing. Miguel took them when he left. However, Miguel used them to secretly travel to Mexico and retrieve Abuelita. The book ends on the day of Esperanza's 14th birthday, and Esperanza has finally learned to be grateful for what she has. Her family reunited, friends who love her, and most of all, hope. Esperanza was not happy that her father was murdered, but Esperanza had to deal with it no matter what was going to happen. Esperanza was not grateful for anything after her papa died because he spoiled her too much. So Esperanza didn't really know how to take care of herself because of what her papa did. Her mother tried to teach her how to be grateful for what she has, but it didn't work until Esperanza became grateful for what she had.
Thank you, Miss Angelina Chano. Once again, good day everyone. I am Marvel Makatambad, and I am going to talk about the plot structure analysis of a children's fantasy novel, The Esperanza Rising. First is the exposition. The exposition of a plot is the place where the reader is introduced to the main characters and any important information necessary to understand what is currently happening. In this book, the exposition occurs in the second chapter, where we learn about Esperanza, her family, her servants, and her friends. In this chapter, we are also introduced to the beginning of Esperanza's conflict with her father's death. Next is the rising action. Rising action is the action that will lead to the climax or the major turning point in the plot. In this novel, the rising action is everything that happens before Abuelita comes to California. This includes all the turning points that occur in Mexico and California, such as when the ranch is burned down, as well as the mama's illness and the immigration sweep. During the rising action, Esperanza learns that she has become richer in becoming poorer. Esperanza rises above her hardships. Next is the climax. The climax of a plot is the major turning point that allows the protagonist to resolve the conflict. The climax of Esperanza Rising occurs when Miguel brings Abuelita to California. This is the most significant turning point because it proves to Esperanza that everything will be alright in California and in her new life. Furthermore, Abuelita's escape from Mexico is a final victory over Tío Luis and Tío Marco, who tried to prevent her from leaving. When Abuelita comes to California, Tío Luis and Tío Marco no longer have any power over Esperanza's family. Next is the outcome. The outcome, resolution, or denouement occurs in the final chapter when Esperanza and Miguel listen to the earth. This happens a full year after the tragedy of her father's death. Esperanza has learned how to be rich in being poor. So now, what is the moral lesson can we get from the story? When we first meet Esperanza in Esperanza Rising, we can tell that she's a sweet kid, but we have no idea if she's really a good person. After all, it is pretty easy to be agreeable when you are super wealthy and everyone throws you big parties all the time. But the real test of a person's character is how they act when life gets tough. Esperanza's parents and grandmother do their best to teach Esperanza some important lessons about patience, bravery, and kindness. And do these lessons pay off? Esperanza keeps their words in mind as she's challenged by the death of her father, the loss of her home and fortune, and the difficulties of a new life in a strange country. It is not easy, and Esperanza definitely makes a few mistakes along the way. But the most important lesson that Esperanza learns from Mama is that nothing matters more than being with the people you consider your family. Esperanza has to learn to be a virtuous person, but ultimately, we find out that this is a young lady with a lot of integrity. So that ends our discussion for today. I hope you get inspired by the story that we have discussed, a children's fantasy novel, The Esperanza Rising, and that you have learned something from the story. Once again, this is the group Fantastic 5. Thank you and God bless.